What's up guys? Today I'm headed over to my duplex to handle a maintenance request. There was a big storm in the area recently with a lot of wind, and I got these photos from my tenant, completely knocked the fence over. Not something that you really want to get, but this is what being a landlord is all about. So I wanted to go over my process of how I handle maintenance requests from when I receive the actual request from the tenants to how I get that thing fixed. So let's get to it. Before we get into today's video, if you're interested in hearing more about real estate investing, being a landlord, things that you can do with your money, and other personal finance techniques, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment, share with your friends so you can help me out for that YouTube algorithm. For today's request for fixing the fence, I had a few quotes from some handymen. I have a couple handymen that I know. One is more convenient and will show up within an hour, and he's a little bit more pricey, but still less than a plumber and electrician. And I have another one who's still quite reliable, but usually a lot less expensive. And for this particular project, they quoted me for fixing the fence being $1,300. Now that's a big expense and a lot of money if you're thinking about it in terms of cash flow and maintenance expenses, but I have budgeted for something like that. But in this scenario, I was able to go over to the place, check out what was wrong. So the post totally snapped, so I'm gonna have to be putting in new posts, but I can reuse the fence panels. So the cost of the materials for me was only $75, which I have back here. You can see my nice orange bucket from Home Depot, got some of my materials and tools in there. And I have a lot of the tools already, so I didn't need to buy anything specialty. So that $75 for me makes sense to go and fix the issue rather than paying someone else. In today's video, I wanna go from the point of there being an issue, a maintenance request in the home, all the way to getting it fixed. So there are a number of ways that you can get things fixed within your home and a number of ways that you can handle these maintenance requests, and it can be as hands-on or as hands-off as possible. Getting these calls and texts can be stressful, but it's just part of the game. If you analyze your numbers correctly, and if you don't know how to do that, check out the video up here or in the description below. You'll know that maintenance requests are a part of your monthly expense budget. So that's something that you need to take into account. And when I first started getting these calls and texts from my tenants, I would always be freaking out. There would be that moment of anticipation. Why are they calling me? Why are they texting me? What do I need to fix? And how much is it going to cost? Now that you've bought your building and you understand maintenance requests and you've budgeted for them monetarily, you need to figure out how you're going to logistically handle those maintenance requests. And there's a number of ways that you can do it. The first part of handling a maintenance request would be getting that information from the tenant. You're obviously not going to know that there's an issue unless the tenant notifies you. So make sure you have a good relationship with the tenant so they actually let you know that things are going wrong, so you can fix it before it becomes a bigger issue. The first way that you can get notified about these maintenance requests would simply just be having your tenant call or text you. Now this is a pretty standard way to think about it, and you can give your tenant your actual personal phone line, or you could set something up like a Google phone number that makes sure that your tenant calls you with that phone number that's hooked up to your actual phone. And there's certain parameters and hours that you can set up so that you only get notifications when it's going through that Google phone number at certain hours of the day. The next thing that you can do is have your tenants call or text a handyman directly. If you have a good relationship with that handyman and they're willing to take calls from your tenants, that is a much smaller burden for you to handle for these maintenance requests. And you could also set it up so that, for example, if anything is going to cost less than $200, you don't even need your handyman to notify you. They can just send you a bill or tell you how much it's going to cost while they're doing it or once they've done it, if that's the way you want to work it out. Another way that you can get notified would be through something like Cozy or Rent Ready. These services are awesome for landlords. Not only do they let you list the apartment, collect rent, but there's also options for maintenance requests. So the tenant that you have set up on one of these platforms can go in, notify you through the maintenance request portion of that platform. And once they've notified you, you'll get an email, and it's basically the same process from there. But in this scenario, you're not going to be getting calls and texts to your personal phone number, so a lot of people like this option. Your decision really depends on your personal situation and your unit count and how you want to scale and how you want to set things up from the beginning. Because if you set things up a certain way from the beginning, yes, you can change it, but it's a little bit difficult. If you only have 1 or 2 units to handle, you can probably have them call or text you. But if you're continuing to buy 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 units every single year, eventually those 20, 30, 40, 100, however many units will be a lot lot more difficult and you'll be getting a lot of calls and texts every single week. Maintenance requests are a really important part of landlording. It's what keeps your tenants happy if you can fix that thing quickly. What value proposition are you offering to your tenants so that they stay in, so that there's less vacancy, so that they feel more comfortable about sending you maintenance requests so that you can fix that thing before it gets a lot worse? The better you are at handling maintenance requests, the more money in your pocket later on down the road. The next part about maintenance requests is figuring out who is going to fix it. Are you handy? Are you going to be the one that goes and fixes it? Do you have the time? Do you know how to fix it? Are you going to call a handyman who's kind of a general person that can fix a lot of different things? Do you have to call a specialty person like a plumber or an electrician because it's specific to that profession to go and fix that thing? What is the option that you're going to take up? Now, obviously, each option I just described is going to have an associated cost. As yourself, you're going to be paying yourself basically nothing. But how do you value your time? How many units do you have? Are you handy? Do you know how to do this stuff? Do you have the tools, etc.? If you're not the one who's going to be handling the request because one, you don't know how to fix it, or two, you are busy with other things like work or your family or whatever you do with your spare time, then you're going to be calling a handyman or a different professional that can handle the request. The question about who is going to go and fix it, a handyman versus a professional, really depends on the maintenance request. Is it a leaky faucet? Yes, you would think that a plumber could go and fix a leaky faucet, and they can, but if you have a reliable handyman who lives in the town nearby, they're going to charge you a whole lot less than a plumber would per hour. An important part of figuring out whether or not you will fix it, or a handyman or a professional like a plumber or an electrician, would be the liability. So if there's an important thing like the heat or the hot water, or there's a gas fitting that needs to be fixed, or there's a gas stove that needs to be hooked up, I'm 100 times out of 100 going to be having a plumber to do that stuff. They're a licensed professional, and if I don't have the gas fittings in properly and there's a fire, there's huge liability on my end. So I want to make sure that I have a trained professional doing things like that. Similarly, if there's stuff going on with the electrical panel, I don't want to have my handyman going there hurting themselves, or me going there and hurting myself. I want to have a licensed professional going to fix that stuff, especially if myself or that handyman wires something incorrectly. And again, there's a fire, some sort of liability issue that could harm my tenants, that comes back to me. So you want to make sure that in those scenarios where there's something more serious happening, that you have a licensed professional fixing that stuff. Save money where you can, but make sure that it doesn't harm anything in terms of your liability or your tenant's health or your own health, so that everything is happening smoothly and there's nothing going wrong. There are a lot of factors that come into play figuring out if you want to be the one handling the maintenance requests or if you want to call a handyman or a professional. Today I'll be handling that maintenance request, so let's head on over to my duplex and fix that fence. What's up guys, just got here, parked on the side street of the house. This is another big factor that'll take into account how much of the stuff you might do on your own. It's only about a mile away from me from where I currently live to my duplex, so it's pretty easy to get around, especially if I want to do some of this stuff myself. If I lived further away, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I would be paying someone else. So please take that into account. Make sure you value your time, understand that you could be doing other things with your time, understand the opportunity cost of you going to fix stuff versus how much it would cost to pay someone else to fix that thing. All right, so it's time for me to go finish fixing the fence. No matter which system you pick, you're going to need to have some type of system in place. You're going to need to know what to do when there's an issue on your property. Whether you go ahead and let your tenants text or call you, or you use a platform, or you hire someone else, there needs to be some sort of system so you can figure this stuff out. And you don't just have to use one. I personally have my tenants text or call me depending on the severity of the issue. So if it's something like this that's not too big of a deal, they can text me and I can figure out what to do from there. Obviously, if there's a gas leak or a fire, I'm not the person who's going to be fixing that. You need to let your tenants know. If there's an actual emergency, they're probably going to be calling 911 because you can't do too much about a gas leak or your house on fire. So make sure your tenants know what to do in which scenarios. And like I said, you can use whichever option you want. I get the tenants to text or call me for things like this, but I also use those platforms like Cozy for them to put in maintenance requests, depending on what I want to do, especially because that's awesome. It gives you a log of the request that they've asked for, so you have everything in writing. Another important thing to note is you can't let this stuff stress you out. If you let it stress you out, you're not going to want to keep investing in real estate. You're not going to want to hit your goals. You're just going to want to stop. All of this stuff is what happens, and you're a savvy real estate investor because you've been watching my videos and you know that you have this stuff budgeted for. So you shouldn't feel too stressed about it if you can pay for it and if you know the right people who can handle these requests. It's also important to note you could handle every single one of these things from your couch. You could get the text, the message, or get the notification from your handyman, tell them what to go do, or they'll tell you what they've gone and fixed, and you can just pay the invoice to that person without lifting a finger. So it depends on how involved you want to be, it depends on how much money you want to pay, it depends on how well your building is cash flowing, if you bought the correct building, on which option works for you. Let me know in the comments below if you would handle your requests differently or how you do it now. And don't forget to like and subscribe, help me out for that YouTube algorithm, and so more people can see this video so they know how to handle their requests. Thanks for watching and hope to see you guys next time.